Have you ever paused to consider, my friend, what if true love, the kind that resonates not just in the heart but deep within the soul, wasn't something to be tirelessly chased or anxiously sought, but rather something that patiently, quietly waited for you in the profound stillness of your own being? What if it were possible for two souls, once intimately connected yet somehow drifted apart by the unpredictable currents of life, to truly find their way back to each other, not through forceful striving or desperate measures, but through a gentle, almost imperceptible alignment of their inner worlds, a resonance that transcends logic? And what if destiny, that mysterious weaver of our interconnected paths, finally speaks its truth, not in loud, unmistakable pronouncements, but in the softest of whispers, in the sacred language of silence itself? If it did, would your heart, amidst all the noise of the world, truly know how to listen, how to recognize its unmistakable call? Karma, you see, isn't some mystical, bearded judge seated sternly on a distant cloud, meticulously tallying our virtues and our faults. It doesn't arbitrarily punish. It doesn't lavishly reward in the ways our minds often imagine. Instead, karma, in its most profound and practical sense, simply, impartially reflects. It is the unseen, yet ever-present, echo of every thought we entertain, every word we allow to pass our lips, and every hidden motive that stirs within our hearts, and its reflections are perhaps never more clear, more potent, than within the most sacred and intimate of human bonds, marriage, or a deep, committed partnership. In the timeless teachings of Zen and the unwavering law of Dharma, karma doesn't conveniently take a nap during the wedding vows, nor does its influence magically fade away after the ceremony concludes. Oh no, it listens, not with physical ears, but with an energetic attentiveness. It listens not to our carefully crafted appearances or our public declarations, but to the subtle, vibrational energy that flows, or ceases to flow, between two interconnected souls. It diligently records not what is proudly proclaimed in front of smiling guests, but more significantly, what is deeply, truly felt in the vulnerable, often unwitnessed silence when no one else is watching. Marriage, when viewed through this insightful spiritual lens, isn't merely a social contract or a romantic destination. It's a powerful, often unflinching, living mirror. It is a mirror that consistently, and sometimes painfully, reflects back to us our most reactive, most conditioned self. It illuminates our most tenderly vulnerable truths, the parts of ourselves we often try to hide. It is the sacred, often challenging, space where our cherished illusions about love and about ourselves come face to face with the demanding, humbling realities of true, unwavering devotion. It's where the restless, often insatiable, ego is constantly, subtly tested, not necessarily in grand, dramatic gestures of sacrifice, but in the countless, seemingly small, almost imperceptible choices we make, day in and day out. So, let us begin this story, this reflection, not with the usual fireworks of passionate beginnings or the overt drama of conflict, but with a profound, inviting stillness, Let us begin with the quiet, observant presence of karma as it patiently, intricately threads itself through the years of a shared love, through moments of telling silence, and through seemingly minor choices that invariably carry far more weight, far more consequence, than we often realize in the moment. The parable, two streams, and the river of self. Imagine, if you will, a man who found himself caught in a powerful, disorienting current, standing between two distinct, compelling energies. One woman felt like fire, fierce, unpredictable, wonderfully, terrifyingly alive. With her, his pulse instinctively quickened, his mind felt sharp, challenged, engaged. She playfully argued with him. She intellectually stimulated him. She pulled a raw, forgotten passion from places deep within him that had long lain dormant. But woven inextricably into that thrilling excitement was a persistent, gnawing unease. In her presence, his ego danced. It preened. It felt seen and magnified. But his inner peace, his quiet, centered self, it almost completely vanished. The other woman felt like water, soft, steady, clear, and deeply, quietly nurturing. With her, time itself seemed to slow down, to breathe. In her presence, he found he could speak less, explain less, and yet, somehow, feel more fully, more deeply understood than ever before. There were no exhausting performances required, no specific roles he had to play to earn her affection or approval. There was just a shared, simple, uncomplicated presence. Yet, there was the rub. The exhilarating fire made him feel intensely, intoxicatingly alive, at least on the surface. But the calming water, in its gentle consistency, made him feel profoundly, deeply safe. And when his restless mind, conditioned by the world to seek drama and intensity, craved the fire's burn, the profound stillness offered by the water felt, to him, almost dull, almost lifeless. And so, he ran back and forth between these two powerful, opposing poles, not truly running toward one woman or the other. But in reality, he was constantly, exhaustively running away from himself. And that, my friends, is the very first lesson this ancient wisdom offers us. When a person, man or woman, finds themselves genuinely, agonizingly torn between two other people, they are often, on a much deeper level, simply avoiding a necessary, and perhaps long overdue, confrontation with their own inner world. One person in this dynamic often mirrors the internal chaos they haven't yet found the courage to heal, the unresolved passions and wounds they are still addicted to. The other, conversely, often offers the profound peace, the unconditional acceptance, that a part of them deeply craves, but that their ego, their unhealed self, doesn't yet truly believe it deserves. Craving versus contentment, the nature of the choice. The Buddha, in his profound teachings on the nature of existence, taught that much of our human suffering arises from tanha, a deep-seated craving, a relentless thirst for something outside of ourselves to make us feel whole. This is the fundamental, often agonizing, difference between desperately chasing after something and peacefully, contentedly being with what is. The woman of fire, in our story, gave the man precisely what his unexamined ego craved: the thrill of the chase, the validation of her attention, the sweet, intoxicating feeling of seduction, the egoic victory of conquest. With her, the emotional high was potent, undeniable, but it was also tragically temporary and utterly dependent on her moods, on her validation, on her perceived surrender to him. When she inevitably pulled away, as the nature of fire is to flicker and change, he would feel that familiar, gnawing emptiness return, often more intensely than before. The woman of water, on the other hand, gave him something far more subtle, yet infinitely more sustaining: a quiet, unwavering consistency. She listened to him, truly listened, without the immediate need to judge, to fix, or to offer unsolicited advice. She remained gracefully grounded, a calm anchor, even and especially when his own inner world fell apart. He didn't have to win her affection or her presence. She offered it freely, from a place of inner fullness. And perhaps, precisely because she was always there, so steady, so reliably present, he, in his unawakened state, tragically forgot her true value. There is a Zen saying that illuminates this dynamic perfectly: what you chase will inevitably run. What you sit with, quietly and with presence, eventually becomes you. Still, for a long time, he chased. He ran headlong toward the constant stimulation, the drama, the fire. He questioned the value of peace, mistaking its quietude for a lack of passion. But always, in those rare, unguarded moments of inner silence, in the quiet aftermath of the fire's inevitable burnout, it was the woman who offered him stillness that his soul unconsciously, yet irresistibly, returned to. Because true, profound stillness doesn't need to shout to be heard. It simply, powerfully, whispers its truth directly to the soul. The ego's fear versus the soul's knowing. The great battle within him, as it is for so many of us, was the battle between the loud demands of the ego and the quiet, certain knowing of the soul. His ego, by its very nature, wanted constant proof of its worth. It craved praise, it demanded attention, it sought control, and so, he naturally, almost magnetically, gravitated toward the one who often seemed to withhold love, the one who made him work for it, the one who kept him guessing. His ego, in its delusion, believed, if I can just win her, if she finally, definitively chooses me over all others, then I will, at long last, finally be enough. But the soul operates from a completely different paradigm. It doesn't desperately seek external validation, for it knows its own intrinsic, unchanging worth. It simply, quietly, recognizes resonance. The woman of water, you see, didn't fight for his attention. She didn't feel the need to compete with the fire. She simply, authentically, existed, offering her serene, grounding presence as a gift, without condition, without expectation of return. And this very quality, this profound non-neediness, deeply, fundamentally unsettled him for the longest time. He couldn't quite understand it. Why was the one who stayed so effortlessly, Who demanded so little? The very one he couldn't seem to see clearly. Why did her calm feel so much more threatening, in a way, than the other's chaos? Because, my friends, the ego deeply, mortally fears peace. The ego thrives on drama, on conflict, on proving itself. It often, quite literally, begins to die in the profound, revealing light of genuine stillness. But the soul, our truest essence, comes fully, gloriously alive in it. He may have, for a time, loved the one who constantly excited his senses, who thrilled his ego, but ultimately, he stayed with the one who unconditionally accepted him in his entirety, because the quiet language of genuine acceptance, he eventually learned, speaks far louder, far more profoundly, than the most intoxicating whispers of seduction. Because silence, when it is true, when it is shared from a place of deep presence, will always, always outlast the fleeting, exhausting noise of drama. Over time, it wasn't love that he grew tired of. He grew profoundly, deeply tired of performing love, of always chasing, always proving, always pretending to be someone, something he was not. The constant thrill, which once felt so vital, began to relentlessly drain him, and the profound stillness, which once felt so dull, began, almost miraculously, to deeply, truly heal him. And please understand, this transformative shift wasn't sudden. It wasn't a single, dramatic epiphany. It took time. It took pain. He stumbled many times. He ran back to the fire, got burned, and retreated again. He got lost in the confusing fog of his own desires and found himself again in the clarity of quiet reflection. But eventually, inevitably, the incessant noise of his ego's desires became utterly, completely unbearable, and the profound, healing silence became, at long last, sacred, the ultimate choice, arriving home. And so, he stayed. He finally, truly, authentically chose to stay with the one who didn't desperately demand his love as a validation of her own worth, but who, instead, simply, gracefully made room for it to naturally, organically grow. She was not, by any worldly standard, perfect. She had her own flaws, her own shadows, but her anger, when it arose, was soft, fleeting, and communicative. Her spirit was inherently, deeply healing. She didn't feel the need to compete. She sought only to genuinely connect. And when a man, or any person for that matter, finally chooses, truly, deeply chooses from their soul, not just from their ego, it is rarely the one who gave the most drama, the most excitement, the one who made their heart race with the most anxiety. It is almost always the one who, through their own unwavering presence, allowed him the sacred, precious space to simply be himself, in his entirety, without judgment, without condition. She didn't try to fix his complicated past. She didn't attempt to shape his words or police his thoughts. She simply, with profound grace, held up a clear, loving mirror to the very best version of him. The version that, deep down, truly, desperately wanted to grow. She didn't challenge him to win her, as if she were a prize. She quietly, powerfully challenged him to rise to his own highest potential. She didn't punish his missteps with coldness or withdrawal. She consistently, lovingly, gave him the gift of her own unwavering peace. He may have hesitated for a long time, caught in the powerful currents of habit and desire. But when the deep, soul-level need for genuine meaning finally outgrew the superficial, ego-driven need for drama, he stopped running. He finally came home, because every man, every human being, no matter how outwardly strong or seemingly self-sufficient, secretly, deeply longs for a place, a person, a presence, where they can be utterly, completely soft without shame. And when he finds a woman, a partner, who gracefully, lovingly allows for that profound vulnerability, that authentic softness, he stays. She never once asked to be chosen. She never issued ultimatums or played manipulative games. She simply, courageously, remained herself, unmoved by the games of seduction, unshaken by the fear of rejection. In a world so often filled with carefully constructed masks and performative personalities, she stayed beautifully, refreshingly real, and in the profound silence of his own deepest thoughts. In those quiet, unguarded moments late at night when no one else is watching, it is her face he remembers, her presence he feels. Not the woman who constantly tested him, who kept him on his toes, but the one who, with compassionate eyes, saw through him. She saw his fear, she saw his flaws, she saw his hidden, aching emptiness, and she still, with a quiet strength that defied all logic, stayed, not because she was weak or had no other options, but because her very softness was her greatest strength. And that kind of profound, accepting softness, it's unforgettable, it's irresistible to the soul. Because deep down, every human being craves genuine, compassionate understanding far more than they crave fleeting admiration. And the woman who consistently, authentically offers that rare gift, he returns to her, again and again, until one day, he simply no longer has any desire, any reason, to leave. She doesn't need to speak loudly. Her very presence speaks volumes. She consistently reflects back to him not his pain, not his chaos, but the profound peace he is capable of. She gently encourages his becoming, not his performing. She holds his occasional inner chaos with a grace that helps it to dissipate. Rather than amplifying it, she doesn't make demands. She simply, by being who she is, deserves the love and respect he now freely offers. She's not trying to win a competition. She just is. And her authentic isness is more powerful than any strategy. This isn't, ultimately, about conventional beauty or worldly power. It's certainly not about some primal competition between two potential mates. It is, at its core, about truth. And when a man finally, truly sees the truth of his own soul, he will almost invariably choose to stay with the one who consistently, lovingly brings him back to who he most genuinely, most authentically wants to be, not the one who momentarily sparks his restless ego, but the one who gently, profoundly awakens his dormant soul. In the profound view of Zen, true love is not chosen with the grasping hands of desire, but with the open, clear-seeing eyes of awareness. Every man, every person, standing at that proverbial crossroads between two others is, in reality, standing between two potential awakenings. One connection calls him to evolve, to deepen, to heal. The other, however tempting, often tempts him to remain asleep in his familiar patterns, in his comfortable illusions. Passion, in its fiery, consuming form, is almost always temporary. Peace, in its deep, nourishing form, is wonderfully, beautifully sustainable. And when the deafening noise of the ego's desires and fears finally, blessedly fades, he will always, always choose to stay with the one who feels like home, especially in the profound, revealing stillness. Because when a man finally, truly chooses from the depths of his being, he chooses the woman who asks for nothing from him, but whose very presence, by some beautiful, sacred mystery, gives him everything he never knew he was searching for, simply by the profound, authentic grace of her being. Concluding summary and a very strong call to action. And so, my friends, as we draw these reflections to a close, we see that this age-old story is about so much more than a simple choice between two people. It's a profound, timeless parable about the journey of the soul itself. It's about the inevitable movement from the noisy, demanding chaos of the ego to the serene, steady, and knowing stillness of our true essence. The choice is never really between fire and water, between excitement and safety. It is, and always will be, a choice between the part of us that clings to illusion and the part that yearns for truth, between the part of us that craves fleeting validation and the part that seeks lasting, authentic peace. The woman who doesn't resist, who doesn't manipulate, who doesn't perform, she becomes a living sanctuary, a space where a man can finally stop running from himself and begin the courageous journey home. She embodies a love that doesn't seek to possess, but rather, to liberate. She reflects not what he wants to momentarily have, but who he truly, deeply is and is capable of becoming. And once a soul, any soul, has tasted that level of profound peace, that quality of unconditional acceptance, the noisy allure of chaos and drama loses its power forever. This is, in its purest form, the hidden Dharma of love. What is meant to stay with you does not need to be chased. What is meant to last does not need to scream for your attention. And what is meant to truly awaken you will never seduce your ego. It will always, always serve your soul. And that is why, in the end, he stays with the one who never once tried to keep him. Because, through her own quiet strength and unwavering presence, she had already, long ago, become his true home. If this quiet, reflective journey into the heart of love, karma, and awakening has stirred something deep within you, if it has illuminated a corner of your own heart or offered a moment of profound clarity, then we passionately, sincerely invite you, do not let this feeling of resonance fade. This exploration is more than just a story. It's an invitation to view your own life, your own relationships, through a deeper, more compassionate, more discerning lens. Subscribe now and become an essential, cherished member of our ever-growing global community, a vibrant, supportive sanctuary where we courageously explore these transformative truths, uplift one another's journeys, and collectively learn to choose peace over noise, presence over performance, and the profound wisdom of the soul over the fleeting demands of the ego. By subscribing, you are not just clicking a button, you are making a powerful, conscious declaration to yourself and to the universe. I am ready to choose my own awakening. I am ready for a love that serves my soul. I am ready to come home to myself. Click that subscribe button with the full, heartfelt intention of your awakened spirit, and be absolutely certain to ring that notification bell. Because every new drop of wisdom we share is a stepping stone on our collective path. And we want you right there with us, every single step of the way. And now, we turn to you. Your voice, your journey, your unique insights are what breathe life into this community. Please, share your own profound reflections in the comments below. What part of this story, what particular truth, touched your heart the most? Have you ever been the fire or the water in someone's life? Or stood at that crossroads yourself? Your story could be the very reflection that another soul, perhaps reading these comments in a moment of confusion, desperately needs to see. Let this be a space where our collective wisdom can grow and blossom. Until we meet again, may you always, always choose the profound peace that comes from stillness. May you honor the presence of those who feel like home. And may you, too, become the kind of sanctuary that another soul, perhaps a weary traveler themselves, returns to, not because you ever demanded it, but simply because, in your own quiet truth, you so beautifully, so powerfully, embodied it. Thank you, with our deepest gratitude, for watching. We can't wait to see you in the next video.